Look at them. Look at their faces right now. Mouths half open, eyes wider than they've ever been, trying to process what just happened, trying to make sense of what they just saw. You weren't supposed to let them see that. You weren't supposed to drop the act. You weren't supposed to let the filter slip, but it did. And now there's no taking it back. Maybe it was a conversation that went too far. Maybe someone pushed one button too many. Maybe you just got tired of smiling when you didn't feel like it, tired of nodding when you disagreed, tired of shrinking yourself to make them comfortable. Whatever it was, something inside you just stopped caring, stopped performing, stopped pretending, and they saw it. That flash, that glimpse, that moment where your eyes changed and your energy shifted, and suddenly they weren't looking at the person they thought they knew. They were looking at something else entirely. See, they had you all figured out, or so they thought. You were the quiet one, the easy one, the harmless one, the one who didn't make waves, didn't cause problems, didn't threaten anyone's position. They thought your silence meant you had nothing to say. They thought your patience meant you were a pushover. They thought your kindness meant you were naive. They thought your calm meant you were empty. They built an entire story about who you are, filed you away, categorized you. Safe, predictable, manageable. You were supposed to stay in that box. You were supposed to play that role. You were supposed to be the character they created in their heads, but you were never that character. You were just letting them believe it. Not because you were scared, not because you didn't know better, but because it was easier. Because showing them the real you meant dealing with their fear, their jealousy, their desperate need to pull you back down. So you wore the mask. You played along. You let them think they knew you, until you didn't. And when it happened, when that mask finally slipped, when the filter came off for just a moment, everything changed. They saw something in your eyes they'd never seen before, heard something in your voice that made them stop mid-sentence, felt an energy shift that made the hair on their neck stand up. It wasn't anger. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even hostility. It was power. Raw. Unfiltered, unapologetic. It was the real you. The version you've been keeping locked away, the intensity you've been dimming, the strength you've been hiding behind smiles and silence. And they weren't ready for it. They weren't ready to discover that the person they thought was soft was actually just selective, that the person they thought was weak was actually just controlled, that the person they thought was simple was actually playing a completely different game. They weren't ready to realize they'd been underestimating you this entire time. But ready or not, the truth is out now. The filter came off. The mask cracked. The secret they weren't supposed to know is now sitting right there between you and them. And they can't unsee it. They can't unknow it. They can't go back to the comfortable lie they were living. Watch them now. Watch how they're looking at you. There's something different in their eyes, something between respect and fear, curiosity and caution. They're studying you like they're seeing you for the first time, because they are. Every assumption they made about you is crumbling in real time. Every box they put you in is breaking open. Every story they told themselves about who you are is being rewritten. They're replaying every interaction now, every conversation, every moment they thought they had you figured out. That time you stayed quiet during an argument. They thought it was weakness. Now they're wondering if it was mercy. That time you walked away from conflict. They thought it was fear. Now they're realizing it was wisdom. That time you let something slide. They thought you didn't notice. Now they're understanding you noticed everything. You just chose not to react. You weren't oblivious. You were observing. You weren't passive. You were strategic. You weren't lost. You were 3 steps ahead the entire time. Here's what really terrifies them. Here's what's keeping them up at night now. While they thought they were studying you, figuring you out, reading you like a book, you were doing the exact same thing to them. You saw their patterns. You noticed their weaknesses. You cataloged their insecurities. You watched how they needed to feel superior, how they clung to false narratives, how they performed fake confidence to hide real fear. You saw everything. You just didn't say anything, because that's what intelligent people do. They watch, they learn, they wait. While everyone else was busy talking, competing, performing, you were busy becoming something they couldn't comprehend. You were evolving in silence, growing in the shadows, building strength in places they couldn't see, and they missed it completely. They were too busy with their own noise to notice the signal you were broadcasting. They thought they were the ones with power. They thought they were the ones in control. They thought they were the ones who mattered. But you were always the one actually running the game. They just didn't know they were playing. Now comes the scrambling. Now comes the damage control. Now comes the desperate attempt to make sense of what just happened. Some of them are trying to backtrack, suddenly being nice, suddenly interested, suddenly asking your opinion, suddenly trying to get back in your good graces, because they're realizing they may have made an enemy without knowing it, or worse, lost an ally they didn't appreciate. Others are going quiet, watching you from a distance, measuring their words more carefully, second-guessing every interaction. They're editing themselves around you now, filtering their thoughts, swallowing jokes they would have made before, holding back comments they would have thrown out casually, because they're no longer confident they know how you'll respond. The predictable version of you, the one they could manage and manipulate with simple social pressure, that person is gone, and in their place is someone unknown, untested, unpredictable. They can handle enemies they understand. They can deal with threats they recognize, but you've become an unknown variable, and that's throwing off all their calculations. They don't know what you're thinking anymore. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't know if you're angry, amused, or completely indifferent, and that uncertainty is eating them alive. You want to know the funniest part? The part that really gets them? What they saw? That glimpse behind the curtain? That flash of the real you? That wasn't even you at full capacity. That was just a crack in the armor, a leak in the dam, a preview of the feature film. You've been operating at what? 30%? Maybe 50% on a good day, just to keep the peace, just to avoid making waves, just to maintain some semblance of social harmony. You've been handicapping yourself, dimming your light, muting your voice, shrinking yourself down to a size that didn't threaten their egos. And even at that reduced capacity, even playing at half power, you were still more real, more intense, more present than most of them operating at their maximum. Now imagine what happens when you stop holding back. Now imagine what happens when you decide their comfort is no longer your responsibility. Now imagine what happens when you step into the full expression of who you actually are. That's what has them terrified. Not what you showed them, but what you're still hiding. Here's what they're finally understanding. Here's the truth that's hitting them like a freight train. Your secret wasn't that you were hiding something bad. Your secret was that you were hiding something powerful. You weren't concealing weakness. You were concealing strength. You weren't hiding flaws. You were hiding capacity. All this time they thought you were soft. Turns out you were just selective. All this time they thought you were weak. Turns out you were just controlled. All this time they thought you were simple. Turns out you were strategic. You've been operating on a completely different frequency, playing a completely different game. following completely different rules, and they were too busy congratulating themselves on figuring you out to notice they were reading the wrong book entirely. You let them win small battles because you were fighting a different war. You let them feel superior because their opinion didn't matter to you. You let them think they had power because real power doesn't need to announce itself. And now they're sitting with this information. Now they're processing what it means. Now they're realizing just how badly they miscalculated. The questions are swirling in their heads now, keeping them awake, making them replay every memory with new context. How much have you been holding back? How much have you been protecting them from? How long have you been playing this role? What else did they get wrong about you? If they misread you this badly, what else have they misunderstood? Every interaction is being re-examined. Every moment is being questioned. Every assumption is being tested. And with each re-examination, they're discovering they know less about you than they thought. The foundation they built their understanding on? Sand. The confidence they had in reading you? Misplaced. The control they thought they had? Imaginary. They're standing in the rubble of their own ignorance now, trying to figure out who you actually are, trying to predict what happens next, but they can't, because you're not following their script anymore. You're not playing by their rules. You're not staying in the box they built for you. You've broken free, and freedom, real freedom, the kind that doesn't ask permission or seek approval, that's the most powerful force in the world, and it's contagious, and it's terrifying, because when one person breaks free, others start to wonder if they can too. When one person drops the mask, others start to feel the weight of their own. You've become dangerous, not because of what you might do to them, but because of what you represent. The possibility that they too are living behind masks, the suspicion that they too are playing roles, the growing awareness that they too are capable of more than they're allowing themselves to be. Watch what happens next. Watch the scrambling, the damage control, the desperate attempts to smooth things over. Some of them are suddenly being nice now, suddenly asking how you're doing, suddenly interested in your opinions, suddenly trying to get back on your good side. It's transparent, it's pathetic, and you see right through it. They're not reaching out because they care. They're reaching out because they're scared. Scared they made an enemy, scared they lost leverage, scared they misjudged the situation so badly that now they're on the outside looking in. Others are going completely silent, radio silence, avoiding eye contact, taking the long way around to avoid crossing paths with you, because they don't know what to say, they don't know how to act. The script they were following just got thrown out and they have no idea what the new rules are. And some are getting defensive, trying to flip the narrative, trying to make you the problem for dropping the mask, trying to paint you as unstable, unpredictable, changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You stopped pretending, and that terrifies them more than anything else. They're starting to feel it now, the absence, the shift, the loss of something they didn't even know they had until it was gone. Your patience, gone. Redirected to people who actually deserve it. Your understanding, gone. Reserved for those who reciprocate it. Your energy, gone. Invested in places that actually appreciate it. Your willingness to smooth things over, to absorb tension, to make them comfortable, gone. Permanently. You were doing so much emotional labor they didn't even notice. You were carrying weight they didn't acknowledge. You were managing dynamics they benefited from without ever saying thank you. And now that you've stopped, now that you've withdrawn all that invisible work, everything feels different to them. Harder, sharper, more uncomfortable. Conversations that you used to buffer feel awkward now. Conflicts that you used to absorb escalate. Dynamics that you used to balance fall apart. They didn't appreciate what you brought until you took it away. Classic, they want you to hide again. You can feel it, can't you? They want you to put the mask back on. They want you to return to being the comfortable version, the easy version, the version that made them feel safe and superior. They're practically begging you to tuck away whatever they saw, to go back to the performance, to pretend that moment never happened. Some of them might even say it out loud. You've changed. You're different now. I miss the old you. And you'll smile, because they're right. You have changed. Thank God you changed. The old you was getting used. The old you was being underestimated. The old you was carrying their weight while they took credit. This version doesn't do free labor. This version doesn't accept disrespect. This version doesn't shrink to make them comfortable. But you can't go back. Because once you've tasted authenticity, once you've felt what it's like to exist without the filter, going back becomes impossible. You've crossed a threshold that only moves in one direction. You've seen what it's like to be real, and you can't unsee it. You've felt the relief of not carrying that weight anymore, and you can't unfeel it. The mask is off, the filter is gone. The secret is out, and what they do with that information, how they react to this new reality, that's their problem now, not yours. This moment, this reveal, this dropping of the filter, it's not an ending, it's a beginning. This is where your real story starts. Not the story they told about you, not the narrative they built around their misunderstanding of who you are, but your actual story. The one where you're the author, not the character. The one where you make the rules instead of following theirs. The one where you exist in full color, instead of the muted tones they preferred. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it comes with a cost. Some relationships that were built on the false version won't survive contact with the real version. Some people who loved the mask will reject the face. Some connections that felt strong will reveal themselves as shallow. Let them go. Let them leave. Let them find another mirror that shows them what they want to see instead of what they need to see. Because you're done shrinking. You're done dimming. You're done apologizing for taking up space. You're done managing other people's emotions at the expense of your own truth. You're done playing small so they can feel big. You're done hiding your power so they don't feel powerless. Those days are over. Here's what you gain. Here's what makes all of this worth it. Freedom. The freedom to exist as yourself, without constant editing, without performance anxiety, without the exhausting work of maintaining a character. Authenticity, the ability to move through the world in alignment with who you actually are, not who others need you to be. Power, the kind that comes from self-knowledge, from boundaries, from the willingness to be misunderstood rather than falsely understood. Self-respect, the deep, unshakable kind that comes from honoring yourself, even when it costs you relationships, approval, comfort. You're going to discover something beautiful in this process. You're going to discover who actually values you. Not the performance, not the mask, not the comfortable lie, but you. The messy, complex, intense, powerful, real you. Those people exist. They're out there. And they've been waiting for you to show up authentically so they can recognize you. Because like calls to like, truth calls to truth. Authenticity attracts authenticity. The people who are brave enough to live without masks can spot others doing the same. And those are your people. Those are the relationships worth building. Those are the connections that will sustain you through everything else. You're not losing anything real. You're just clearing space for what's real to find you. From now on, Things are different. From now on, you operate differently. You don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't defend your boundaries to people looking for ways to cross them. You don't prove your worth to people who already showed you they can't see it. You just move. You just exist. You just be. And if that makes them uncomfortable, if that threatens them, if that disrupts their little illusions about who you are, not your problem, not your responsibility, not your concern. You're not here to make them comfortable anymore. You're here to be real. And real doesn't come with a comfort guarantee. Some people are going to love this version of you. They're going to respect it. They're going to be inspired by it. They're going to see your courage and find their own. Others are going to hate it. They're going to resist it. They're going to try to guilt you back into the box. They're going to weaponize your past against your present. Let them. Their opinions stopped mattering the moment you stopped performing for it. So let them be shaken. Let them whisper. Let them try to make sense of what they saw. Let them recalibrate their entire understanding of who you are. Let them approach you more carefully now. Let them watch their words. Let them second-guess themselves. Let them wonder what you're thinking, what you're capable of, what you'll do next. Because you're not hiding anymore. You're not performing anymore. You're not playing anymore. The filter came off, and it's not going back on. They wanted to know who they've been dealing with. Now they know. And that knowledge, that's gonna change everything. For them, not for you. You've always known who you are. You were just waiting for the right moment to let them see it. And that moment, it just happened. This is you, unfiltered, unapologetic, unavailable for the roles they tried to assign you. This is you done shrinking, done dimming, done apologizing for existing at full capacity. This is you stepping into the full expression of who you've always been underneath the performance. And if they're terrified, good, they should be. Because they've been dealing with a storm this whole time. They just thought it was a gentle breeze. Now they know better, and they'll never look at you the same way again. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making them pay. This isn't about proving anything or winning some imaginary competition. This is about alignment. This is about integrity. This is about finally allowing the outside to match the inside. You're not trying to hurt them. You're just no longer protecting them from the truth. You're not trying to punish them. You're just no longer sacrificing yourself to keep them comfortable. There's a difference, and that difference is everything. Revenge is reactive. This is proactive. Revenge needs an audience. This needs nothing but your own integrity. Revenge seeks validation. This creates it. This isn't the end of the story. This is barely the beginning. You're just now starting to discover what it means to live without the filter. You're just now beginning to understand the power that comes from authenticity. You're just now scratching the surface of who you can become when you stop limiting yourself for others. The best chapters haven't been written yet. The real growth hasn't happened yet. The full expression of who you are is still emerging, and they're going to watch it happen. From a distance, with a mix of regret and awe and confusion. They're going to watch you build a life they're not a part of. They're going to see you succeed in ways they didn't think you could. They're going to witness your evolution and wonder how they got it so wrong, and you won't even be thinking about them, because you'll be too busy actually living. Welcome to the real show. The one where you're not the supporting character. The one where you're not playing small. The one where you stop dimming your light for people who prefer the dark. The one where you make the rules. The one where you set the standards. The one where you decide who gets access and who doesn't. The filter came off. The mask cracked. The secret's out. And there's no putting it back. There's no rewinding. There's no undoing what's been done. They see you now, the real you. And that changes everything. Game over. New game. Your rules now. And if they can't handle it, if they can't adjust, if they can't accept this version of you, they know where the door is. You're not hiding anymore. You're not waiting anymore. You're not apologizing anymore. This is you. Take it or leave it. And honestly, you don't really care which one they choose, because for the first time in a long time, maybe for the first time ever, you're free.